Welcome to Big Faces Worldwide. It's your boy Big Will, and I'm back with this boxing talk. Hey, check it, man. I just recently read an interview about the boy Danny Jacobs. The boy is now saying that, you know, he wants the Charlo fight. He's saying that the beef between them, you know, is personal, and you know, that he tamed the lion. You know, when they ran across each other at the Barclays earlier this year, and you know, Jermall Charlo was, you know, had Danny Jacobs' name in his mouth, you know, saying this and that, and all of a sudden Danny Jacobs pops up. You know, he confronts Charlo, you know, and he asked him, you know, what was he talking about, and you know, they exchanged some words, and he was talking about, you know, he was touching M's and, you know, all that type of shit right there. And he's saying after that encounter, Charlo has not mentioned his name. So he thinks that he's saying that he has tamed the lion. You dig where I'm coming from? Now, my thoughts on Danny Jacobs pulling this move, and I'm gonna call it a move because we didn't hear none of this talk until now, till Jermall Charlo, you know, announced his fight coming on December 22nd. He's fighting Willie Monroe Jr. You know, I didn't hear none of this talk from Danny Jacobs. You know, this altercation happened a long time ago, months ago. You dig? And I did not hear a peep about Danny Jacobs talking about Charlo, you know, up until, you know, Jermall Charlo announced that he had the fight. Now, Danny Jacobs could fight. Don't get it twisted. Danny Jacobs could fight. Like I said, I seen the best Danny Jacobs that I ever seen. I seen him in that ring Saturday night, you know. Now, with that said, you know, I still don't think that he could beat Jermall Charlo in a 12-round, you know, in a 12-round match. The fight will go like this, in my opinion. Danny Jacobs will look good in the beginning, you know. He'll look sharp, you know. He always looks sharp in the beginning. You know, Charlo, in my opinion, is a slow starter sometimes. Like, you know, when he fighting a tricky fighter, he fighting an experienced fighter. It'll take him a couple rounds to get familiar with the fighter. Just like the fight with J-Rock. J-Rock had success early against Charlo, you know, but Charlo is patient. Charlo is a very, very patient fighter. You know, he waited to counter J-Rock, you know, at the right moment, and caught him with that uppercut, and that's all she wrote. You understand what I'm saying? The same thing with Austin Trout. You know, Austin Trout had some success with Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo did not panic, you know, and just start going all crazy and trying to get Trout out of there. No, he picked his shots. He was selective, but he was selective aggression. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that Danny Jacobs, you know, if you watch his fights in the later rounds, you know, you know, I don't know if it's a lack of mental focus, or I don't know if it's fatigue. You know, I want to say it's a combination of both. But later in fights, Danny Jacobs becomes defensively irresponsible, man. He gets hit with a lot of more shots than he would in the beginning of the fight. He cannot keep focus through the whole fight. You know how you got a guy around the way, man. You got a guy around the way to talk all this shit, man. You know, talk real loud, act like he about that life, act like he want that smoke. You know what I mean? But, you know, you just looking in his eyes, just looking at his body language, you could tell if he really about that, you know, really about that there or not. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I see at Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs act like he want that smoke. He talks like he want that smoke. You know, the type of dude that, you know, get into an altercation and want to, you know, scream all loud so people can come around and look. You know what I mean? I see Danny Jacobs as that guy. And I say that because, let's take the Triple G fight, for instance. You know, Danny Jacobs went in there and fought Triple G timid. I don't care what nobody say, that boy was timid as hell of Triple G. You understand what I'm talking about? He went in there and he fought scared, you know. And if you can remember, at the end of that fight, when that final bell rung, Danny Jacobs collapsed on the ropes like he just finished a marathon, and he made it. You know, he broke the ribbon and he fell on the ground. And Andre Rozier's trainer had to tell him to stand up, son. You know, understand what I'm saying? Like, he was just so happy to finish that fight. He was just so happy that Triple G didn't knock his ass out, you know? And I seen that with the Derevyanchenko fight. He didn't actually fall on the ground, and, you know, because he learned from the last time. But you could see in the later rounds, he just was trying to get through, especially in that 12th round. Derevyanchenko was on his ass that 12th round, you know what I mean? And Danny Jacobs just wanted to get through that last round. Even Selecki, you know, he did drop Selecki late in that fight, but, you know, he became defensive, irresponsible late in that fight. Selecki was catching him with some good shots, man. And Danny Jacobs did not keep his focus all the way through the fight. Even with Arias, you know, he tried to get Arias out of there quickly, and he found out that he couldn't. You know, credit to Danny Jacobs. You know, Arias was just in there trying to survive. It's hard to knock a guy out when you're trying to survive. But, you know, Danny Jacobs had to realize that you ain't gonna knock everybody out. You know what I mean? Some guys, if your plan A don't work, you got to go to a plan B. You know what I mean? His plan A didn't work. You ain't gonna knock this guy out. This guy's not gonna let you knock him out, because he's not going to take no chances for you to knock him out. You understand what I'm saying? So Danny Jacobs didn't go to a plan B to say, okay, I'm gonna just box this guy, I'm gonna just take what he gives me. No, he still kept trying to knock the guy out the whole fight, man. And you know, he stunk up the joint. You know, he looked sloppy. You know, he looked sloppy in his last couple fights. But, you know, I'm not going to take this Derevyanchenko win away from him, man. You know what I'm saying? Danny Jacobs looked great. He looked very, very good in that fight. You know, like I said, during the second half of the fight, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round, I found him, you know, he didn't seem all mentally in that ring, man. He started getting hit with more shots. Derevyanchenko, you know, he was pressing the issue. He couldn't touch Jacobs like he wanted to, but he was on that ass. You understand what I'm saying? He was on that ass, and Danny Jacobs was happy when that final bell rung. Something else I read in an article, Danny Jacobs was saying that, you know, he don't want to get in too much of a discussion about the Charlo fight, because, you know, he knows that Jermall has to get past Willie Monroe. You know what I mean? But, you know, it's a fight that he'll like to make, hopefully in 2019. And me, myself, I would love to see that fight. Like I said, Danny Jacobs can fight. You know, he can fight. But he don't have it in here to fight to beat a guy like Jermall Charlo, in my opinion. You know, we all got opinions. This is my opinion. You understand what I'm talking about? Jermall Charlo is, you could tell that, you know, he want that work. You know, he want that work. Like I said, you've been around the way. Some of you guys didn't, but for those that been, you know, around the way, you could see the pretenders from the real deal. You could see who's talking all the talk, you know, by the body language and by the words and by their eyes, you know, and by their actions. And you could see, you know, who's just bluffing. You know what I mean? And I think Danny Jacobs, he can fight. He will fight. But I don't think that he has that killer instincts to go in for the kill. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like a Jermall Charlo. You know, a lot of people say Jermall Charlo's not proven. Who has he fought? Well, you got to look at, don't nobody want to fight this guy. This guy's been calling out these fighters. He's been trying to secure these fights with these fighters, and he cannot get a fight with these top level guys. So what he needs to do is just keep knocking down the dominoes, man. You know, they keep lining them up. He got to just keep knocking down the dominoes until eventually they're gonna have to see him. You know, it's like he put himself in a position to for the WBC to be the mandatory for Canelo. You know, he kept knocking down the dominoes. You know what I mean? And he keep putting in work like that. These motherfuckers they're gonna have to see him. Canelo's gonna have to see him, or he's gonna have to be stripped of that title. You know, sooner or later, if he don't give up his spot in that WBC, if they mandate this fight, Canelo's gonna have to see him, or he'll be stripped from that title, and Jermall Charlo will fight another motherfucker for the title. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, he just stay the course. unless he can secure that fight with Danny Jacobs, I wouldn't waver from that WBC, goal. You understand what I'm saying? If Danny Jacobs, is real serious about this fight, then, that's a shot at the IBF title. It ain't the WBC. All these fighters, they want that green belt. It ain't the green belt, but it's a middleweight title. Now you have leverage in the middleweight division should you win against Danny Jacobs, man. But I'm just thinking that it's real convenient for Danny Jacobs to call out Jermall Charlo after all this time. That altercation was a long time ago. You know what I mean? And he wait till now, when Charlo announces his fight with Willie Monroe to say that, it's personal, I want this fight, this and that, and he may want the fight, but I don't think that he got what it takes in here to beat a guy like Jermall Charlo, man. There's boxers who can box, there's boxers who can box, and then there's boxers that can box and really want to get in there and hurt you. You understand what I'm saying? Danny Jacobs is a boxer that can box, and he wants to win, you know what I mean, and he tries to win. But a guy like Charlo is gonna go in there and he's gonna do everything in his power to win. Nothing's gonna stop him from, he wanna hurt you. There's nothing's gonna stop him from putting a hole in your head with his fist. You understand what I'm saying? There's a difference. There's a difference between wanting to hurt somebody in there and wanting to win. You know what I mean? When you want to hurt somebody, you want to win by any means necessary. When you want to win, you just in there trying to win. And that difference, what makes a lion and what makes a motherfucker that's just talking, just roaring like a lion. You know what I mean? Those are the two, the separation of the two, man. But, I just wanted to get my thoughts on that, man. I just thought it was very peculiar at the timing that Danny Jacobs called out Jermall Charlo. You know what I mean? It's real convenient to call him out right now after he announced his fight with Willie Monroe. You know what I mean? I hope, the first quarter of 2019, Jacobs keeps this same energy. Keep this same energy, man. Like I said, Danny Jacobs is a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. This ain't a diss to Danny Jacobs. It's just my opinion on how the fight game looks right now. On what I think Jermall Charlo and the Danny Jacobs fight will look like. This is Big Will for Big Faces Worldwide. I'll holler back.